Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills Season 12 Reunion Part 2, and OMG, do we have a lot to discuss because the way Garcelle was treated in the second part, I was beyond irate. The microaggressions continue to jump out, and I need for Andy to really get on the Fox Force 5 about the things that they say. Garcelle, while she did speak up, she could have done a bit more in my opinion. I felt like she could have gone a lot harder because she really let Rinna, Dorit and Erika and Kyle off easy. But before we get into all of that, let me first start off by pouring up a nice glass of the fabulous IYLIA wine. And for today's wine, we're gonna do a nice RHOBH, okay? A nice deep red. And if you don't know, IYLIA Wine is a Black woman-owned wine company, okay? And they are giving my subscribers 20% off when you use my discount code BrookeAshley20 at checkout. Here we go. Cheers, y'all. So good. And once again, a big thank you to my friends over at IYLIA Wine Collection. Make sure to grab a bottle, okay? Use my discount code. You already know that all the details are down below in my description box. And don't forget to check IYLIA out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Now, with all that being said, let's get right on into it because you guys already know that we don't have a minute to spare. So part 2 picks up right where we left it last week with Garcelle letting Diana know to leave her the F alone. She says, Diana, just stop talking about me, stop tweeting about me, stop harassing me on social media, like leave me alone. I don't bother or harass anybody in this group, so I don't understand why it's being done to me. So Diana, being the Karen that she is, has the nerve to twist her lips and say, but didn't you call me evil? So Garcelle says, well, yeah, I called you that after you had called my friend Sutton the C word. So now Diana wants to compare the word evil to the C word, and you have the Three Stooges over there, Rinna, Erika, and Dorit, trying to say that evil is worse than being called the C word. So Andy was like, are you serious right now? You think that evil trumps being called a see you next Tuesday? And I'm going to tell you just like this. If you've been watching me for quite a while, you know that I have no issue calling somebody vile or evil. Both of those words roll off my tongue like that. So I was laughing at them acting like the word evil is just so bad. If you're an evil person, you're just an evil person, and it is what it is. Stop being evil, stop saying vile things, and then we wouldn't be calling you guys evil. It's as simple as that. But what you won't do is try to make it like Diana is the victim. Diana is no victim to circumstances that she created. She has been nasty to Garcelle and Sutton since the time that she's gotten on this show. So no, there is no sympathy. And this whole entire segment with her and Garcelle, I said, can you please just get Diana off this screen? And just so you know, Diana, you have been one of the biggest flops in Housewives history. And how embarrassing for you that you only had like 10 minutes of airtime at this reunion. So now Diana tries to lie and say that Garcelle also called her soulless. And Garcelle says, hold on, that wasn't me, that was Sutton who called you that. And once again, I don't think that you deserve an apology for that because you are soulless. And I would have called you that too. I actually have called you guys that during my recaps. I've called you, Rinna, Erika, and Kyle, and Dorit soulless individuals. And it's the truth. Again, I don't think that people need to mince words, especially when you have displayed very nasty behavior since the beginning of this season. I'm going to continue to say that you cannot be the villain and the victim at the same time. That's not how this works. You have to pick a side and stay there. But you don't get to harass somebody, curse somebody out, call them everything but a child of God, and then when they clap back, now it's, well, I can't believe you called me that. How could you say that I'm evil? How could you say that I'm vile or soulless? That's not how this works. Sutton and Garcelle have every right to give you that same energy. When Sutton said, there is nothing to clear up, and I am very clear on me and Diana's non-relationship, I said, bravo. It only took you all season long to finally get it together, Sutton. I said, thank God. Because I was really getting tired of Sutton apologizing for everything and taking the blame for all this stuff. I was sick of it. So here's where I got pissed off. When Diana started picking on Garcelle again and said that she's really in shock at what Garcelle is saying, and when Garcelle said, are you serious right now? It's always me. I'm going to tell you just like this because I have a few of you guys in my comments talking about stop making everything about race. I might not be the reviewer for you if you're going to sit up here and try to gaslight me on what I'm watching. As a Black woman, I know what microaggressions are. I know what racism is, okay? So what we won't do is act like that's not occurring on this cast. Y'all have to stop looking at racism so black and white, like, is somebody calling you the N-word? It's microaggressions. It's saying that a Black woman is aggressive or angry when she's not. It's the gaslighting. It's you picking on the Black woman in the group and nobody else. Is saying that Garcelle has an attitude when she's asking a simple question and her voice isn't even raised. She hasn't even cursed at anybody. And somebody else in the group asks the same question, but yet she's getting painted as the aggressor. I was really pissed. And that laugh that Garcelle did, that was that, okay, you just trying it with the Black girl, aren't you? Because I didn't even do anything. And I'm going to touch on that a bit more later on in this recap, because towards the end, when the racism stuff got brought up and they sat up there and denied it, I have a lot to say about that. So I want to let you know right now, because if you think that you're about to camp out in my comments talking about it's not racism, stop making it about race, then you have another thought coming, okay? So I'm just giving you the disclaimer now, okay, so that there's no confusion and that you're not caught off guard, because I will be delving into race and colorism and all that good stuff later on in this recap. So anyhow, Diana says that nobody in this group would ever go after her sweetheart son, Jax, and how she's filed a lawsuit in LA County to get to the bottom of all this, and how she will get justice for Garcelle and Garcelle's son. Now, Garcelle wasn't here for it. If I were Garcelle, I would have said, once again, I don't need your help. I have my own money. I have my own investigation going on. I don't need you. Andy didn't really care too much about this lawsuit because he was like, Diana, who is this lawsuit against? And she was like, oh, it's against John Doe since we don't know who it is. And then she says, you know, my privilege is having money and I'm going to use my privilege for good. And Garcelle had me on the floor when she said, good for her. And then you have Erika jumping to Diana's defense, and she's like, you know, Garcelle, she really does have good intentions, and you guys are both hurt. And Erika, the same way that you get on Garcelle about Garcelle being Sutton's mouthpiece and always defending Sutton, you don't need to hop in and defend Diana. Diana's a grown-ass woman. So let Diana sit there and either sink or swim. But we don't need you coming to her rescue talking about, well, Garcelle, she is trying to do a nice thing for you and you guys are both hurt. Shut up. So Garcelle says, look, I don't want to talk about Diana anymore. I'm good. Like, let's leave this alone. Let's drop it because I'm getting really irritated. So Andy dismisses Diana and I said, thank you, Jesus. Won't he do it? She is finally off of our screens. So now all the ladies break for lunch. We see them in their dressing rooms. Erika and Rena are together and here they go, sounding like the two idiots that they are. Child, you have Erika talking about, well, all of our children have been attacked. And I was like, Erika, your son is what, 28, 29 years old? He's a police officer who has never even shown his face on this show. We don't even know what he looks like. So what are you talking about? And how dare you compare your grown son to a 14-year-old child? There is no comparison. This boy was receiving messages about you're lucky that you have a white dad, otherwise you would have gotten a knee to your neck. You don't even know what that feels like. How dare you try to compare it like it's the same thing? It's anything to take the attention off of Garcelle and try to act like what she's saying isn't true in terms of how she's treated in this group. It is just so pathetic that you guys want to jump through hoops like the microaggressions aren't real. Y'all want to sit up here and gaslight her. It's crazy. And then you have the nerve to be upset when somebody calls one of you guys evil. And then Rena talking about, well, yeah, I know. Isn't that a shame? Just causing division in the group. How is she causing division? Once again, the treatment that she has received within this group, I think that anybody would have some questions like, I think it might have been one of the ladies doing this to my son. Also, Garcelle, along with all of us, saw firsthand how you guys rallied behind Erika and were laughing and cheering her on as she was cursing out Garcelle's son. So once again, why wouldn't Garcelle have questions about who in this group had some involvement? I know I would. Going forward, I need to see some changes because I really can't go another season seeing the Fox Force 5 gaslight Garcelle like this. I can't do it. And this conversation between Erika and Rena was so pathetic. So now we see Garcelle and Sutton in their dressing room and they're talking about what just happened. Garcelle says that she is pissed about that whole Jax portion, and she adds that she will get to the bottom of who did this. So Sutton says, but I have to say, Garcelle, you did a great job and know that I have your back, and we will get to the bottom of who's behind all these attacks to your son. And once again, I just love Garcelle and Sutton's friendship. It's a true friendship, and you can really see that they love each other. So now, Garcelle brings up the whole Crystal mess about Crystal claiming that Sutton said all these dark things about her. And Sutton says, look, I feel vindicated. I knew that I wasn't racist. Now you guys know the truth, and it was a long time coming. Then she says that she was happy to see that the other women were behind her as well. Now I said, Sutton, in regards to you and Crystal, let's be clear. They weren't really defending you because they liked you or because they cared about clearing your name. They only cared because they also don't like Crystal. So they were happy to poke holes in her story and discredit her. So yes, you did have their support on this. It's not for the reasons why you think. And also, nobody wants to have the label stamped on them that they're racist. So now we see Dorit and Kyle in their dressing room, and as they're eating their lunch, they're talking about what went down with Crystal too. So Dorit says, I think that Crystal's having a hard time admitting the truth, that she embellished a lot of things. And Kyle says, oh, absolutely. Crystal was lying and she can't admit that she lied, and that's what happened. Then Kyle brings up, even Andy said that when she was on Watch What Happens Live a few months ago, she said that worse was said, and then when he called her out about it, she tried to deny saying that. Then Kyle goes on to say, that's what happens when you can't keep your story straight. And I said, okay, Kyle, not too much from you. You want to talk tough now, but in a few hours, it's going to be a different story. So now they come back from their lunch break, and it's now the Kyle part of this reunion. And when I tell you that I was bored to tears, so we can just breeze right on through it, okay? Andy brings up Kyle's recent tattoos. I don't care, so we can just move on along. I'm like, why is he asking her about that? Like, that's not of interest to any of us. Then Andy wants to know if Farrah's gonna have a big wedding, and Kyle says, well, honestly, Farrah doesn't really want anything big, but you know, it's gonna be nice. Obviously, it can't be any less than Portia's bat mitzvah. One thing about Kyle loves to keep up with the Joneses, so best believe that Farrah's wedding will be over the top and grand. So now Andy brings up the rumors about Mauricio and Dorit having this steamy affair. And Dorit's face is all twisted up talking about, oh my gosh, like just disgusting. And so Kyle says that the reason why those rumors came out was when they all came to Kyle's house after the home invasion happened, when Mauricio hugged Dorit and PK, when Dorit wrapped her arms around them both, she kissed both PK and Mauricio's backs. So that's where it all started. So then Kyle says, yeah, I read that we're swapping partners and all this stuff. Now, in all seriousness, while those fan theories are funny, do I really believe that Dorit and Mauricio would be so dumb to cheat on their spouses with each other? No. And then it was funny when Andy was asking if any of the women felt offended or if they were surprised about who would Mauricio and PK hook up with if they couldn't choose their wives. And Mauricio said Rena and PK said Erika. Now, I've always thought that PK had a slight crush on Erika, so I wasn't surprised when he said Erika. So now Erika interjects and says, well, I have a funny story. When I was at the World Cup in Berlin some years ago, and this guy comes up to us and he's like, are you two chicks in porn? And it was no other than PK. So Dorit's face looked tight. She looked visibly annoyed when she was like, oh, I never heard this story before. And it was clear that she wanted to get off the topic and just move on. And I said, girl, I mean, if it happened, it happened. And I could definitely see PK asking Erika that. And I thought it was interesting that Erika wanted to bring that story up. Like, why couldn't you just keep that a secret between you and your friend who you went to the World Cup with? Why'd you feel the need to share that? And Erika was also shady this past weekend at BravoCon because she was asked a shady question about who does she think is going to get divorced next out of all the Bravo couples. And she said Dorit and PK. Now, why would you even joke like that about your so-called best friend? Why would you put that sort of energy out there? Erika is not able to be a true friend to anybody. So now we move on along to the Garcelle portion. Andy's asking Garcelle, how does it feel to be the proud owner of a Birkin? And Garcelle said it feels good, but she was a bit uncomfortable at first in how when she first bought the bag, she let it sit on her dining room table for 2 days because it didn't feel real to her. Now, I have to say, I was a bit taken aback by Garcelle saying that she just felt so uncomfortable because it's not like Garcelle doesn't have other expensive things. You know what I'm saying? Like, she has $1 million home, she has a luxury car in the driveway, she has Chanel purses, she has Prada bags that run for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. So I'm kind of thinking, I mean, yeah, the Birkin bag is a lot more than those, but it's not like it's your first ever expensive designer piece. So, I mean, I don't really get why she feels so uncomfortable, if that makes sense. But I guess I'm somebody where I like spending money. Like, if I have it, I'm gonna buy it.
Bling, bling, bling. Bitches is mad.
Listen, I live by tomorrow's not promised, so buy it today. And at the end, we are not taking any of this with us. So in the meantime, I'm gonna enjoy it. So Andy wants to know what Sutton thinks about Garcelle's Birkin. And Sutton says that she actually wanted Garcelle to go to Paris with her and buy her Birkin there. So now Andy's asking Garcelle about her beach house because remember, we saw that Garcelle bought a second piece of property. Congratulations to her because that's a huge deal. And she says that it's taking a long time to build it because you need a permit for everything. So now Andy changes gears and he brings up Garcelle's experience with Bill Cosby when she was younger. Because remember that Garcelle put the story in her book. So Garcelle says that she had gotten a small part on the Cosby Show. She had just turned 18 and Bill Cosby had invited her to his townhouse to go over her acting. So she says that he gave her a cup of Sambuca and she took a sip of it and immediately she knew that something was wrong. and she says that she bolted out of there immediately because she knew that if she didn't get out of there soon, something would have gone down. So while Garcelle's telling her story, you have Rinna off to the side being dramatic, and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm getting chills just listening to this. And it was like, girl, shut up. You just wanted a moment. It's not about you right now. Just sit there, shut up, and let Garcelle talk. You don't even like Garcelle like that. So for you to be talking about, oh my gosh, Garcelle, that's really awesome. Like, you know, good for you for listening to your gut. That's amazing. Like, shut up. Now here's where I really got pissed. And I almost turned the TV off and just stopped watching. Andy turns to Erika and he says, Erika, did you at least skim Garcelle's book before you chucked it in the trash? And now Rena interjects and says, I have to be honest, Andy, I was the one who threw Garcelle's book in the trash. And just the way she was so pleased with herself when she said it, I was so sick. If I were Garcelle, I would have said, Andy, for the rest of this reunion, I do not want either one of them to talk to me. The same way I pay Diana dust, I want them both to just leave me alone. There is no coming back from that. Just so hateful, so vile. Who does that? Y'all are so angry that you have this beautiful black woman on your cast who's thriving, by the way, with multiple jobs, fan favorite, and everybody is on her side. What was your reason for throwing that book in the trash? And then on top of that, you posted on Instagram? Who does that? So Rena says the reason why she threw Garcelle's book in the trash because she and Garcelle had a handshake agreement that kids were off limits. And Garcelle went back on her word and included Amelia in her book. Now, I said what we won't do is sit up here and make this something that is not. Garcelle clarifies that she only told the story of what happened when they were in Rome together and why they fell out. And Rinna, you are reaching because you wanted to throw that book in the trash. You know good and damn well that she was not trashing your daughter. So Rinna says, well, I don't care. Amelia should not be in your book. And I was like, you can't tell her what to put in her book. She was simply retelling a story of why you guys fell out. She didn't disparage your daughter. She didn't call your daughter names. So Garcelle lets it be known that Rinna's lawyers got involved, pretty much threatening Garcelle to take that part out the book. And Garcelle says, a week before the book came out, we took that part out. Now, Rinna, if Garcelle took that out, then why did you still insist on throwing it in the garbage and posting it on social media that you threw it in the garbage? You just wanted to do that to be mean because you're jealous that Garcelle got a book deal and we don't care about you. Garcelle honored your request. So again, what was the reason for you still throwing her book in the trash? So now Andy says, oh, so you sent that picture of the book in the trash to Erika? And so Garcelle says, well, actually, they all have a separate group chat without me, and I heard that the picture was sent in there and that they were laughing at it. And every time somebody calls out the Fox Force 5 and their stupid little alliance, they all get quiet. And I said, go ahead, Garcelle, call them out. Because that is real lame that they have a separate group chat. So now Andy gets on Erika and Rinna about recycling because in that picture of Garcelle's book being in the trash, they had some old telephone in there. And he's like, do you guys recycle? So they all start talking about that. And it was like, who cares? Like, I could give a damn about if they recycle or not. Let's get to the root of the issue, that they're jealous of Garcelle. Let's talk about that. I really felt like there were a lot of times where Andy would just gloss over important things. I really wanted to hear more about why did Rena feel like she was justified in throwing that book in the trash. Because that's real lame and that's real childish and immature behavior. And I also feel like he let Erika and Rinna off the hook way too easy. So now Andy says that Erika took a lot of heat for posting that picture because the fans all thought that she did that and not Rinna. So now Andy reads a tweet from LVP, and LVP was defending Garcelle, and she wrote that Garcelle should have sent Erika a scratch and sniff book. And everybody's face gets real tight every time the legend LVP gets brought up. So now Erika says, well, that's funny, considering that this woman's breath always smelled like cigarette butts, Chardonnay, and garlic. That's real rich coming from her. And I was like, I doubt LVP is out here with stank breath. Just anything because you're upset. And let's see if you keep the same energy if Andy does bring her back. So now Andy brings up how the other women gave Garcelle a bit of a hard time when she let it be known that her son Oliver would be working for Lisa Vanderpump. So Andy's asking Garcelle if Oliver still works for her, and Garcelle says yes. She says that LVP had put an event on for Haiti and she was there, and so they were talking and she mentioned that her son was looking for a job, and that's how it happened. So now Andy's asking Garcelle if she's heard from LVP recently, and Garcelle says, well, actually I have. So now Rena, with her smug self, she interjects talking about, didn't you film with her a few days ago? And Garcelle says, yeah, I did. And I said, Rena, why are you so pressed? Why do you care so much? And I would have said, Rena, Andy's the host of this reunion, not you. I don't answer to you. I answer to Andy. I'll be damned if you're going to sit up here and question me. And Kyle's face looked so tight when they brought up LVP too. And I said, because Kyle, you know deep down inside that while you might be an OG of Beverly Hills, you were never that girl. And even with LVP being gone, you are still not that girl of this franchise. Now, this Rinna portion where Andy was reading the viewer questions about Rinna's outbursts, were they acceptable or was she justified for her behavior? And Rinna immediately breaking out in the fake tears, talking about it's been a very confusing and very rough time for her. And I will keep saying it, that grief is no excuse for lashing out and having a piss poor attitude and taking it out on other people. Millions of people have dealt with the loss of a parent, unexpectedly I might add, including myself, and we have never shown our ass or started screaming at people because we're going through something. That's not an excuse. And for her to weaponize that like she deserves a pass, absolutely not. And Rinna, you saying, well, maybe I should have taken time off of the show, but you just don't know what to do in this time. Let's be clear. 99% of these women on these shows are addicted to this fame. So best believe that even if they are grieving or sad about something, they still want to be on the show and in front of that camera. Rinna giving that half-assed apology, talking about, well, I'm sorry for screaming and acting like a maniac. I was like, girl, save it. And I was so glad when Andy read that viewer question asking her, you're blaming this on the passing of your mother, but what was your excuse to justify your behavior before your mother passed away? Because how you did LVP, Denise, and Kim, we need some answers. So of course, Rinna can't answer the question. She gives some answer that made absolutely no sense. And now Andy's asking her if she's seeing a therapist, and she says that she is. And when Andy wanted to know if Erika had given Rinna some tough love about her behavior, and Erika said, well, we talked privately off camera, and it's hard for her because that was her mom. I said, Andy, now why are you asking a silly question? You already know that Rinna and Erika have a very strong alliance. They have made a pact that they will never publicly disparage one another in public. It's not happening. And I can bet you money that Erika did not give Rinna any tough love whatsoever. Then Andy starts asking Rinna, what did her mom Lois think about her behavior on the show? And Rinna says that her mom never judged her and how she got a kick out of her. And I said, and that's really the issue. Because your mom should have told you, stop acting like a jackass and stop lying on people. It makes me really sad that your mom didn't tell you the truth about your behavior. In case you couldn't tell, I was annoyed this entire reunion when they got to the Sutton portion and they discussed Sutton making the very insensitive comments about Dorit's robbery, I said, oh, we're about to beat this like a dead horse, aren't we? Now, 10 points to my girl Sutton for just owning it and saying, look, I want to apologize for saying that. I regret saying that, and I'll probably regret that till the day that I die. And I really can't stand the fact that I said that. Dorit accepts Sutton's apology. She says that she's happy to hear this coming out of Sutton's mouth. And I said, okay, I understand that you were hurt, Dorit. What we won't do is act like that's the worst thing that has been said amongst this cast. You have Erika talking about she doesn't care about the victims, Rena lying on people, someone's child has been cursed at, but you want to act like Sutton saying, well, there wasn't a gun pointed to my head is the worst thing that's ever been said. Let's not. But again, I was happy that Sutton was woman enough to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong for that, and I regret saying that. So now Andy reads a viewer question to Kyle, asking Kyle, why is she always physical with Sutton, but she was upset when Brandy pushed her in season 2. So here comes Kyle with all the excuses in the world, and she's like, well, no, it's different because that's just how I am. Like, well, you guys don't understand my relationship with Sutton because I'll touch her all the time. And it's like, Kyle, just apologize. Just own up to the fact that you were always manhandling and grabbing Sutton for no reason, and you have no right to touch her. Don't try to act like it's some affectionate love tap or something like that. It's not that. Kyle always has a story for everything to justify her actions. But when it's somebody else, then she wants to nail them to the cross like they're the worst person in the world. Keep that same energy. So now Sutton and Kyle go back and forth. Kyle's trying to negate Sutton's feelings, and Sutton says, girl, you grabbed me and I don't like it. So now Sutton brings up how Kyle immediately jumped to Diana's side at Garcelle's party and how she pretty much accused Sutton of lying about Sutton having 2 miscarriages. So Kyle, of course, she gives a half-assed apology saying, well, I apologize for that, okay? Then Kyle says that she realized the next morning that Sutton was just trying to relate to Diana. And I said, Kyle, if anybody should understand that, then it should be you. Kyle makes everything about herself. Every time you tell Kyle a story, she always brings it back to her and her childhood and her experiences. So for her to act like somebody else is self-centered is a joke. So since they're on the topic of Sutton making things about herself, Andy wants to know if Garcelle feels the same way, and Garcelle says that sometimes she thinks that Sutton is self-centered. Now, Garcelle, I need you to have a united front in front of the Fox Force 5. When it comes to critiquing loved ones, especially in front of enemies, I will never do that. In front of everybody else, you are the most perfect thing. You don't do anything wrong. And I'm not going to correct you in front of folks who don't like you. And I was annoyed that Garcelle did that, because I would have said, well, why are we getting on Sutton about that when Kyle does the same thing? And I noticed that when Garcelle said that about Sutton, Dorit started smiling. I said, again, Garcelle, I understand that you want to keep it real, but don't keep it too real. I would not have said anything about, I think that Sutton does make things about herself sometimes, not in front of them. Because these 4 are so evil, they will use anything against you and Sutton. So now you have Erika talking about Garcelle's a good friend, but her being so tight with Sutton sort of blocks them from getting to know her. So Garcelle is like, are you serious right now? And now Crystal jumps in and says, really? Because the 4 of you guys protect each other way more than they do. So I don't understand why it's an issue that Garcelle and Sutton have each other's backs when you guys do the same thing. And they were all quiet when Crystal said that. Because while I have my thoughts about Crystal, Crystal was right. So now Andy brings up that infamous night on Watch What Happens Live when Sutton revealed that she never received a thank you from Rena and Harry Hamlin about the Elton John table situation. So Sutton says, look, I never meant to share that to hurt Harry or Lisa. I was just making a point about the whole sauce debacle, because remember that Rena was accusing Garcelle of not thanking Harry for the sauce that he made. And like I've said since the beginning of this season, Sutton did nothing wrong, because we've seen Rena say a lot of foul stuff on her Instagram page, to the blogs, on Watch What Happens Live. She says a lot of stuff about her castmates. So I thought that it was all fair in Love and War when Sutton revealed and dropped that tea that she paid for that table, and on top of that, they didn't even have the good sense to say thank you to her. So now Andy reads an amazing viewer question asking what we all want to know. When will Sutton realize that Rena is not her friend and does not like her? So here goes Rena putting on a performance, and she's like, that's not true. That's not true at all, Sutton. I don't dislike you. I don't hate you. So now Sutton says, I want to understand why you hate me so much. So now here goes Rena again, and she says, Sutton, I don't hate you at all. I don't hate anybody. Now you know you're lying when Andy gives his 2 cents, because he says, I mean, all season long, Sutton was your punching bag. So Sutton says, look, Rena, you came for me all year long. You came for me on Instagram, like you didn't stop. Then when Sutton said, I don't consider you a friend, how can I? And Rena had the nerve to look upset and hurt. And I'm thinking, are we really doing this right now? You have humiliated this woman. You have cursed this woman out. You told her to get the F out of your home. You laughed when Diana and Erika called her the C word in Aspen. You've made it clear that you don't like her. But now you're upset when Sutton claps back and says, I don't consider you a friend. Once again, you're not going to sit here and play in my face or anyone else's face and act like you're a victim. Now my girl was really in her bag, because she started bringing out all the facts. She was like, I was talking to you when your mom was in hospice and when your mom passed away. So when you turned around and started yelling at me and cursing at me, I was like, does she not remember how good of a friend I've been to her? Like, it makes no sense. And all Rena could do was just sit there and look dumb. So now Sutton says, I've been beaten like a dead horse and I need an apology. And I was here for it. I said, Sutton, you better demand an apology. And Rena was forced to give an apology for once. And she was like, you know what, Sutton? I'm sorry. I said, Sutton is finally waking up that in this group, you cannot ask for respect. You have to demand it. While I'm glad that Sutton got her apology because she deserved it, I do not want to see her trying to give Rena another chance. Let it be at the associate acquaintance level and leave it there. So Sutton thanks Rena for the apology, and then you have Dorit chiming in, and she's like, can you help me understand the whole horse and glue analogy? Like, I'm confused. So Andy and Sutton explained to her that glue is made from horses, and then she's like, oh, got it. So as we're nearing the end of this part 2, Andy brings up Rena's awful social media behavior and how she's gone off the rails ever since the season started. Now I said, Andy, I do not ever want to hear you say that Candace from Potomac is a disaster, because Rena is on a level all by herself. And I honestly feel like you were a bit too easy on Rena about her antics as well. I wanted you to press her the way you pressed Candace. And this part was a bunch of BS. Rena making excuses, saying that it's the dopamine rush that she gets, and she pretty much likes the attention, whether it's positive or negative. And then she goes on to say that she's very impulsive. And then she says, you know what? I'm a work in progress. I'm thinking, no, sis, that's a weak excuse to give at your big age. You like being an asshole because you like the attention that it brings, and you just can't help yourself. That's all it is. And when Andy read that viewer comment about how Rinna needs to be put on pause, and then Rinna said, well, that's fine. Put me on pause. Like, that's cool. And I said, girl, please. You would go insane if Andy actually did put you on pause like he did Dorinda from New York. You need this show the way the rest of us need air to breathe. You know good and well that you'd be crying if you were no longer on this show. So now Andy reads Rinna's really ignorant Instagram post when she said that it's not fair that the fans call all them racist when they fight with Garcelle, and how you hoes need to deal with it. So Andy wants to know how Garcelle feels, and Garcelle says, look, if you're not around people of color that often, you might not understand that there could be some racial undertones when you say certain things. So now Garcelle brings up when Kyle had tried to out her about not writing the check for her charity and how that was seen in a very negative and racist light. Now Garcelle, while I was happy that you used that as an example, I wish that you would have added in how Rinna's always saying that you have an attitude or how you're aggressive. I also wish that you would have brought up Dorit calling you a bully all last season, because that is the epitome of what microaggressions and racism looks like. So now Crystal interjects and she says, that's how I felt about my conversation with Sutton. So now Kyle's like, that's not the same thing, Crystal. So Crystal's pissed and she's like, Kyle, you've got to stop. So now Kyle says, no, Crystal, you have to stop. So Crystal says, you apologize to Garcelle about the whole charity comment. And Kyle says, that was different from what you're talking about. That was a very clean situation. I apologize. We've moved on. So Crystal says, Kyle, you don't understand anything. And Kyle says, no, I do understand, Crystal, but you were caught in a lie. And I'm very aware that I can't tell Crystal how she could feel about Sutton saying that her daughter was in a hot tub with a black friend and a Chinese friend and an Irish Catholic friend. The way Crystal went about things wrong by saying that dark things were said. Had Crystal come out the gate just saying, when Sutton said X, Y, and Z, I felt uncomfortable and I felt kind of weird when she said that. But because she said, well, dark things were said that I can't even repeat, it makes it seem like it's a lot worse than what it is. And because of that, Crystal has now lost credibility when voicing her concerns about how she felt about this conversation. And I said, Crystal, if that was your way of trying to redeem yourself because of how hard you flopped in the first part of this reunion, it was a little too late. So now Dorit interjects and she's like, look, Garcelle and Crystal, do you think that anybody on this cast is racist? Garcelle says no. Now, me personally, if I were sitting on that couch, if I were Garcelle, I would have had that whole conversation go all the way left, because I would have said, I do. I think that Rinna and Erika are racist. And Diana. And then you have Dorit trying to clean things up, talking about, well, we're just trying to learn more and get better. And I said, you need to learn a bit faster. It's 2022. Let's pick up the pace, okay? And then you have Erika adding in her 2 cents that wasn't needed. And she's like, yeah, because when things are thrown out like that, there are big consequences for everybody. And it's like, well, stop saying racist things. Stop throwing out microaggressions. Stop cursing out Garcelle's kids. How about that? And then there wouldn't be any consequences for you to face. And I hate how they're trying to act like, well, we can't fight with the black woman because we'll be seen as the bad guys. And it's like, you guys know what you're doing. Y'all know good and well that you can argue with Garcelle. It's just the way that you say things that you need to check. But honestly, you guys aren't really used to being around black people. So it probably is uncomfortable for you to be in the same space with a black woman on this cast. But we end the second part with Andy letting them all take a quick break and letting them all know that Kathy Hilton is joining them. So you have Kyle whispering to Andy. She's like, where is Kathy sitting? And he's like, next to you. And Kyle is nervous as hell because she knows it's about to be a hot mess with her sister. And rightfully so. So we see Kathy arrive and she goes right into her dressing room. And then we see Rinna pacing back and forth talking about all I have to do is tell the truth. If I just tell the truth, then I'm good. And it's like, Rinna, you just scream guilty. Because no honest person who's telling the truth will be pacing the floors back and forth like that. Kathy is about to come in and clear you and everybody else, and I cannot wait. Like, this last part is about to be so iconic. And Kathy Hilton was very sweet, by the way, when I met her. And I let her know that I was on her side, and it is F Rinna. But y'all, that's where it ends. And when I say that I was just so annoyed, I mean, it is clear that Rinna and Erika want to break Garcelle down. And I'm glad that Garcelle is of sound mind, that she refuses to let them see her sweat. But I am praying that Rinna and Erika are both fired because I cannot go another season watching this. I just can't. But y'all, that was my recap. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all so much for watching, and you guys already know what to do. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Bye.